Today we're going to talk about the difference between ser and estar. They're the same verbs, but they're used in different situations. We learned first how to conjugate the verb estar. This one's a little bit easier to approach. When it comes to conjugating, all you have to do is chop off the AR and add an OY. And the four bottom ones get accent marks on the A. Really simple. The verb ser, though, it means the same thing as estar, but again, these guys are going to be used in different scenarios. And this one's a little more complicated to conjugate. It's very irregular. This one is soy, eres, es, somos, soy, son. But keep in mind, guys, these both mean the same thing. Yo estoy means I am, and yo soy means I am. Tú estás as you are, tú eres as you are. El e usted means is. El e usted es means is. Nosotros estamos and nosotros somos, they both mean we are. Vosotros, vosotras estáis, and sois mean y'all are. Ellos, ellas, ustedes, están, and son both mean they are. Here are the situations that you will most likely use the verb ser. I like to use the acronym todo, which means like everything, and the T stands for time. You'll use ser for when you're talking about what time it is or the date. So like if I say es la una, I'm saying it's 1 o'clock. Or son las dos, you're using a form of the verb ser to say it is 2 o'clock. Or if I ask you, ¿qué hora es? See, es is one of the conjugated forms of the verb ser. So that's why I'm using the verb ser, because I'm talking about time, or if you're talking about the date, like today is Sunday, hoy es domingo. The other thing is for the first O is for origin. Whenever you're talking about where someone's from, not where they're located, but where they're from, born and raised, or where they grew up. I could say, soy de Waco. I am from Waco. Or if I ask you, where are you from? De donde eres? Do you guys see how we use the form of the verb ser? The D for the todo stands for description. This is the most popular reason why you're going to use the verb ser. If I say, for example, tú eres muy deportista, I'm saying you're very sports-minded. Or if I could say, I am artistic, I would say, yo soy artística. You're describing a person. This could also be used for objects. I could say the phone is blue. El teléfono es azul. You guys heard the verb es being used there? It's because I'm describing it. Most of the time when you use ser, that's the reason why I'm using it. It's because of description. And the last O stands for occupation or your job. Whatever your job is, you're going to use the form of ser. So I could say, ella es maestra. She is a teacher. Or your job right now is to be a student. So I can say, ustedes son estudiantes. Y'all are students. So follow the todo rule to remember when to use the verb ser. A little bit more to remember, but hopefully that acronym will help you out. To use estar, way easier. It's easier to conjugate, and there's only two main rules you have to remember. Now, if you want to follow acronyms, so earlier we had todo for everything. Now we have loco, everything's crazy. The lo, L-O, stands for location. So whenever you're talking about where something is, el papel está en la mesa. The paper is on the table. Or I could say, la mochila está al lado del pupitre. The backpack is next to the desk. Whenever you're talking about where something is, even if you're talking about yourself. So before, when we were using the verb ser, when you're talking about where you're from, if I want to say where I'm located, I might be from Waco, but I could be in California. Estoy en California. I am in California, but I'm from Waco, Texas. Do you hear the difference? The other part was co, for the loco, for crazy. The co could stand for condition. Yo estoy feliz. You're talking about your emotions or feelings. I am happy. Or if I ask you, ¿cómo estás? I'm asking you, how are you? If that acronym doesn't help you remember it, you guys could always remember that how you feel, where you are, always use the verb estar. And so if you're talking about someone's feelings or where something's located, you know to use this verb estar. If you're still struggling with the verb ser, you could do what I did at first, and I just memorized that rhyme, how you feel, where you are, always use the verb estar, and I would ask myself, if I'm talking about how you feel, where you are, okay, I'm going to use estar. If I'm not, I would default to ser, until I finally learned all the rules for ser. So what I want you guys to do is practice this. The best way to get this stuff down is just by practicing it over and over again. I have 15 altogether. I'm going to break it up into 5s. So I'll give you guys a few seconds to screenshot or write this down and continue on. All right, let's discuss the answers. So number 1, what I want you to do is I want you to be able to conjugate either ser or estar, and let's throw in the reason, the acronym. So number 1 is saying, I am in Spanish class. So you have to ask yourself, are we talking about how you feel where you are? Actually, we are. So, yo estoy en la clase de español. We're talking about our location. That's why we use estar. Tomorrow is Saturday. So you have to ask yourself, okay, what am I doing here? I'm actually talking about the time or the date. I'm not talking about how you feel where you are, so I'm not using estar. I'm going to default to ser. So it's actually going to be es. Whenever you're talking about inanimate things, if it's singular, use es. If you're talking about inanimate things and it's more than one, then you'll probably use son. But I'm talking about the date, which is essentially time. I'm using es. ¿Cómo blank usted hoy? Now they're asking, how are you today? You could actually argue como es or como está, but the hoy is actually pushing us to your feelings today. So it's going to be como está usted hoy? How are you? We're asking about your condition, how you feel. How you feel where you are? We're using estar. Number 4, the mouse is on top of the desk. So we're talking about where it's located, correct? We're doing the how you feels, then use estar. El ratón está encima del escritorio. We're talking about its location. It is 1 in the afternoon. So we're not talking about how you feel where you are. We're actually talking about time. So it's going to be es la 1 de la tarde. Now, if we're talking about time that's beyond 1 o'clock, then you would use son. Like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, they would have son. But anytime you talk about the 1 o'clock hour, you're going to use es. We've discussed this in a previous lesson. All right, same thing. I want you to conjugate, either using the correct form of ser or the correct form of estar. And to really make sure you understand the rules, try to think about what rule it is. So take a moment, screenshot it, or write it down on a piece of paper, and we'll discuss the answers. All right, let's look at number 6. Now, number 6 is kind of tricky. This one is like, you are my brother. It didn't fit nicely in my acronym, but we're actually talking about possession. And whenever someone owns something, that's actually going to be ser. That one was a tricky one because it wasn't in my acronyms that I showed you earlier. Tú eres mi hermano. Whenever you're talking about some possession, use the verb ser. Or, like I said before, you're not talking about how you feel, where you are, default to ser. Teresa is very funny. I'm describing Teresa. I'm not talking about how she feels or how she is. Or how you feel where you are, so I'm going to use the verb ser. Teresa es muy graciosa. I'm describing her. Where are we? We're talking about where we are, so estamos. The pens, more than one thing, are next to the dictionary. So I'm talking about where the pens are located, so I know I'm going to use the verb estar. And it's an inanimate object, and it's more than one, so I'm going to say están. They are busy now. This one I'm talking about their condition. So I'm basically talking about their feelings. So I'm going to say, ellos están ocupados ahora. That's their current condition. All right, here's the last set. Same thing. I want you to figure out whether you're going to use ser or estar, conjugate it, and try to remember the rule as to why we did it. Let's discuss number 11. Number 11, today is Wednesday. We're talking about date, time and date. That's going to be the verb ser, es. And we're just talking about today. We weren't talking about all the days. If we were talking about all the days, then we would have used son. Sarita and Marcos are in English class. How you feel where you are? We're talking about where they are. So, son, or están. And we're talking about where they are. He is old. We're describing a person. We're not talking about where they feel or where they are. So it's going to be es, description. Number 14, we are Mexican. We're talking about your origin. So that one's going to be the verb ser, somos. And the last one for practice today is you are shy, but we're being formal. This one's actually describing. We're not talking about how you feel where you are. So it's going to be es, description. Usted es reservado. This is a tricky subject for us English speakers to get because we have 2 verbs that mean the same thing, but they're used in different scenarios. Don't get upset or worried it just takes lots of practice. I know in my experience, this is taught like 3 times. Once in the Spanish 1, and I think it's taught twice within the Spanish 2. It's because that's how tricky it is for us English speakers to understand the concept that it's the same verb that means the same thing, but used in different scenarios. But again, the more you practice it, the better you get. Good luck. Thank you.